Almost every major AI company now has a plan somewhere around $50 a month. Today, I want to look at three of them: Claude Pro, ChatGPT Plus, and Google AI Pro. Because $50 is not nothing. And before you commit to one of these, I think it is worth actually sitting down and comparing what you are getting for that money across the categories that matter most. So I signed up for all three. I used them in my actual workflows over several weeks. And I want to walk you through what I found and which one I think is the right choice, depending on how you work. Let me start with something that trips a lot of people up right away. And that is the model quality question. Because when people ask which of these has the best AI, the honest answer is that it depends entirely on what you are asking it to do. All three of these plans give you access to each company's most capable model. You are not getting a watered-down version of anything. But the models themselves have genuinely different strengths, and knowing those differences before you pay is what this video is about. Let's talk about writing first, because this is where the gap between the three is most obvious and most consequential for a lot of people. If pure writing quality is your priority, Claude is the one. It is more expressive, more natural, and more adaptable to tone than either of the other two. When you ask Claude to write something, it tends to sound like a person wrote it, rather than like an AI produced it. And that difference is significant. If you are writing content that other people are going to read, Claude also has a style feature that lets you upload your own writing, and it will build a custom tone profile from that. So when you generate anything going forward, it can write in your voice specifically, not just a generic version of human-like writing. That is genuinely useful, and neither of the other two does it as well. But here is the frustrating part. Claude's document editor does not let you make manual edits inside it. You can have Claude revise things through chat, but you cannot click into the document and change a word yourself. That used to be possible, and the feature was removed. ChatGPT has something called Canvas, which does allow manual editing inside the document. It puts the document in line rather than in a side panel, which I find slightly less comfortable to work with. But the ability to click in and edit manually is there. And that matters when you are in the finishing stages of a piece of writing. Gemini goes the furthest with this. Its document workspace is the closest thing to an actual word processor of the three. You get formatting controls, heading options, full editing capability, and you can export directly to Google Docs with one click. If your workflow involves Google's tools at all, that integration alone saves a meaningful amount of time every day. Image generation is a category where Claude simply does not compete. There is no image generation inside Claude at any price point. So if that is something you need regularly, you are looking at ChatGPT or Gemini. ChatGPT's image model is the strongest of the two right now. The level of detail, the ability to edit uploaded images, and the consistency of results across different prompts put it ahead. Gemini generates images well, and the results are genuinely good. But if you are comparing them directly, ChatGPT produces the better output at the moment. This can change. These models improve constantly. But as of right now, that is where things stand. For video generation, Gemini is the only option of the three. ChatGPT removed its video generation feature, and Claude never had one. Gemini's video generation is capable and includes the ability to use an avatar of yourself with various templates, which I have found legitimately useful for certain kinds of content. If video is part of what you need from an AI subscription, that decision is straightforward. Gemini is the one. I want to talk about research and web access because this is an area where people assume all three tools are equivalent, and they are not. All three can browse the web and pull in current information. But in my experience, Gemini handles real-world knowledge more naturally in general conversation. It tends to synthesize search results into cleaner, more structured responses. And the formatting of its outputs makes complex information easier to digest at a glance. Claude is the one I trust least for current factual information in a casual setting. It is exceptional for reasoning and writing, but it does not have the same grounded feel when you are asking it about things happening in the world right now. ChatGPT sits in the middle. It is reliable and thorough, but it can produce walls of text that require more effort to read through than the information itself warrants. Coding is a category I will cover quickly because the answer is fairly settled. Claude and ChatGPT are both considered excellent for coding tasks, and most people who use these tools professionally will have a strong preference for one or the other based on personal experience. Gemini has improved significantly, but the consensus in the developer community still puts Claude and ChatGPT ahead for this specific use case. If coding is your primary reason for subscribing, both are solid choices, and the rest of the categories in this video are probably what should tip the decision for you. Now let me talk about the desktop and agentic experience, because this is increasingly where the real difference between the plans plays out. Claude has an application called Co-Work that installs on your computer and gives Claude the ability to interact with files, applications, and your browser directly on your machine. It is impressive and genuinely useful for multi-step knowledge work tasks. ChatGPT has a similar offering that lets you toggle between a standard chat mode and an agent mode for more complex tasks. Both of these are capable. If I had to choose one, I would give a slight edge to ChatGPT's implementation for the way it handles switching between different task types. But both will serve most people well. Gemini's agentic offering called Spark is currently only available on higher tier plans and is not included in the base $50 plan, so it does not factor into this comparison at this price point. Usage limits are the category that I think causes the most frustration for people after they subscribe, because the limits are not equally generous and they are not equally transparent. ChatGPT gives you the clearest picture. On the Plus plan, you get a defined number of messages with the top model in a rolling window, and when you hit that limit, you get downgraded to a less capable model rather than locked out entirely. Gemini handles limits similarly. If you reach your ceiling with the strongest model, you drop down rather than stop completely. And several of Gemini's tools, such as its dedicated image and video generators and its research notebook, run on separate usage pools, meaning they do not count against your main chat limit. In practice, this means you can use Gemini for a much longer session in a day without hitting a wall. Claude is the most restrictive of the three in my experience. The limits reset every 5 hours rather than 3, which means fewer opportunities in a day for the cap to clear, and when you hit the limit with Claude, you are stopped rather than downgraded. For people who use AI heavily throughout a workday, this is the most significant practical difference between the plans. One more thing worth mentioning about the Google plan specifically, a $50 Google AI subscription is not just Gemini. It includes access to a research notebook tool that is one of the most genuinely useful AI products any company has built, a dedicated image and video generation environment with its own limits, AI-assisted music generation, integration with Gmail and Google Docs, a personal health and fitness coaching tool, most YouTube videos without ads, and 2 terabytes of storage across Google's ecosystem. Whether all of those things are useful to you personally will vary, but when you are evaluating the raw value of what $50 buys, the Google plan stacks more distinct tools into that number than the other two, by a significant margin. So which one should you actually choose? If writing quality and coding are your primary needs, and you do not require image generation, Claude is still the one I would recommend for the quality of its outputs, with the caveat that the usage limits will frustrate you if you are a heavy user. If image generation is non-negotiable and you want the strongest model for producing visuals, ChatGPT is the clearest choice. If you want the broadest range of features, the most integration with tools you likely already use, and the most headroom before you hit a usage wall, Google AI Pro offers more for the same money than either of the alternatives. I will be honest with you about my own situation. At the level I use these tools, the $50 plans are not enough. I run higher tier subscriptions for both Claude and Google because the work I do requires the additional capacity. But for the majority of people watching this, one of these 3 plans will cover what you need. The question is just which category matters most to you. Let me know in the comments which one you are leaning toward, or if there is another plan you want me to compare in a future video, drop it below and I will add it to the list.